I'm positive this won't be a popular opinion with some, even a few of my colleagues. But I've never shied away from letting my opinion be known, especially when it comes to the cost of housing and codes that do nothing but increase the cost to consumers rather than reduce them. So why, with a housing affordability crisis, would the federal government once again add new and more costly regulations on new housing via the National Energy Code for buildings? I mean, there's a lot of hype today around the climate crisis, but forgive me if I'm still skeptical. I've read, listened to, and watched both sides of this argument. And this has been ongoing for us growing up in the 80s and 90s. I mean, the impending end of civilization was always 5 to 10 years away. This one sounds the same. And like every industry, we can agree that perhaps some aspects of home building contribute to greenhouse gas emissions in Canada, but we also know we can improve the outcome when it comes to waste and pollution. But I'm here to tell you about a new regulation that, despite its supposed good intentions, it actually makes life worse for Canadians. I mean, if you live in Canada, you should be aware that the National Energy Code of Canada, as it stands for buildings, is terrible for you. And let me clarify this by saying, I'm not opposed to reducing energy consumption or taking care of the environment. However, I do disagree with a code that disrespects the living standards and the rights of Canadians. I mean, not only are the regulations in this code difficult for manufacturers and households to follow, but it also creates stringent requirements for energy efficiency, and it increases the cost of new construction and renovations. And I would also suggest it adds to the cost of maintenance. I mean, naturally, most people want to live in a low energy consumption home, and thereby saving as much as their income for other needs while also limiting their impact on the environment. This decision should be left up to the individual's preferences and their financial affordability. Their ability to do all of this is restricted by this new code. Now, in addition, Canada is vastly different geographically and climatically, while the National Energy Code of Canada for buildings has just one uniform standard. And Canada's vast size means the country experiences a wide range of weather patterns from Vancouver to Calgary to Toronto to the Maritimes. I mean, what is successful and economically practical in one region may not be in another. Despite the fact that each province has its own needs and issues, this code treats them all the same. Now, trying to force a square peg into a round hole, it doesn't work as we all well know. The code also doesn't recognize there are variations in energy-saving strategies. It simply promotes one set of technologies and materials over others that could be more effective and less expensive to the end user. I mean, this approach stifles innovation, not to mention it limits choice. It quite simply limits competition by preventing the market from highlighting other and perhaps even more energy efficient improvements. I mean, Canadians should be able to explore their options and make choices that are right and affordable for them and their family. The code itself has issues, and it's poorly communicated. A lack of clarity and specificity in the code has led just to uncertainty and confusion amongst industry, consumers, and those tasked with implementing these regulations in individual communities. This really leads to setbacks in the form of, delayed start times, increased expenses, and more totally unnecessary bureaucratic red tape. To achieve more energy savings, we need a guideline that is unambiguous, applicable, and simple to implement. Without a doubt, there are some who will argue that this new code is a benevolent goal for the sake of the so-called climate crisis. I've already experienced loud objections to my position on this, and I challenge them to argue the cost and the other issues I mentioned today. Some will even argue that the cost to implement this is $0, which is a preposterous lie. I mean, there are, of course, some subsidies in place from governments to help this transition. But as we all know, those subsidies are paid for by our taxes. That makes it likely for a case of increasing taxes, which is always how these changes shake out, don't they? To summarize, the National Energy Code of Canada for buildings does have some innovative ideas, but in the end, it doesn't do what it says it will. The bottom line is it hurts Canadians. It limits our freedoms, raises the cost of housing. It doesn't consider differences between regions. It stifles new ideas and makes its intended outcome difficult to understand. We need a more cohesive plan, which includes proper input from the building industry and the provinces. This one appears absent of both. We also need one that better considers the status of the Canadian economy and the diverse needs of its people. Now, improving energy efficiency is important, but it shouldn't cost people their freedom, a comfortable lifestyle, or further their taxable incomes. So much for the sunny ways we heard about, hey? Hey, did you guys enjoy this video? Hey, tap the subscribe button now.